What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Women's Rugby Treehouse. It's me, Julie, and I've got Hattie with me again. I'm gonna say hi for the fun of it. Hi, Hattie, again.
It's not like we've been talking for 2 hours.
Not at all.
No.
Um, as we said in the beginning of last episode, we are cutting these up. We're going to move on to the Pacific Four now. As a reminder for those who might be new to the competition, and just because it's the best way to introduce people, this is our competition between the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. If they did their gaming right, ugh, I didn't deliver that name well. If they did that right, they would also have Japan and South Africa, but we don't yet. And then when it happens, we are going to claim that it was already
Yeah, we don't necessarily need royalties, but I
tickets.
would
We do want tickets.
tickets and merch.
We do want merch. You will have to do merch because remember, if you don't, Hattie will find you.
Yeah, and I'll make my own.
She will make her own. Speaking of merchandise, that I was so excited. World Rugby Shop put on a sale of all of the old World Cup jerseys. And I thought it was going to arrive in time for the pod. It didn't. But great merch. Good job. We love capitalism.
Mm.
Speaking of capitalism, this tour is in America. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, if you're going for the Pac 4 countries, of which I own all of the World Cup jerseys for the Pac 4, reasonably sized.
Fantastic.
However, if you're buying the Spain one or Fiji,
Listen,
bit tight.
the Spanish on purpose, the Fijian is just how it happened. But the Spain, they were like, nope, that wasn't that joke wasn't. I was gonna say no femmes, no fatties, but that joke isn't gonna carry. You can cut the. Our producer won't know what I mean. Um, moving along from body dysmorphia, into rugby, which famously has no body dysmorphia.
It's not like it's been in the news this week.
I was gonna say big up to Ellie Kildun. Very cool that she's been talking about it. I was just looking at it.
I can't reach it, but I do have her book up there.
She does have her book up there, and again, because she has the blurring, it does look like it's witness protection.
I have also realised that because I've got this book here, which I bought on Vinted, because it's got like a red square, it looks like something's been censored.
Well, it looks like somebody's holding up a sign,
Yeah.
which is fine. All of this is going really well. You can tell that we have not been talking for several hours now. So we're going to move right into it. As we said when we ended last episode, we are going to be looking at the second week first, or well, first we're going to review the first weekend, which just happened, and we'll be previewing the second weekend, which is coming up. So first we had USA versus New Zealand. The score ended up being 15-48. What did you think?
Um, so I actually watched it earlier on today,
Great.
because I'm a busy owl. Um, Number one, I do find it quite funny that your new fly half is a white girl with dreadlocks.
Who is very religious, which is
Very
funny to me.
religious. And as we have discovered earlier on today, she is a vegetarian who was homeschooled, and her parents run a farmer's market.
It's a lot going on for
Mm.
one rugby player when traditionally our rugby players are like, I'm from Montana and I have a brother.
I kind of love it though.
I mean, I love it. Super young.
And she
We
goes
can
to
we
Life University.
right, which I have Wall Street Journal for talking about that. But yeah, she does. Yeah, she
Yeah.
goes to life. We can tell. Um, we can tell. Uh,
Life University,
sorry,
by the way,
I sorry, I
I
really
should put
tickled
some
myself there.
I feel like I
Yep,
should put some context that in
I
the
was gonna say you're gonna
UK
have to.
you get like middle-aged people who didn't go to university will just put the University of Life in their Facebook
Yep,
bio. So
yep.
unfortunately
School of Hard
that's
Knocks or University of Life. Yep,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
that's what I think
Um,
of every time I see it.
and we've joked about it on Wall Street Journal as well. Like, I feel like the same way that we have Catholic University of America. I'm like, you can't just take it. You can't just take life. The concept of Catholicism. That's us. We did it, but it's very American
American
too. I was
University.
gonna say it's very,
Mm.
yeah, which is my mom's alma mater. And I am
Along with the University of Hull.
Yes,
What
that's correct.
a
Yeah, I was gonna say really auspicious universities.
what
Um,
a combination.
I mean, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like somebody who worked for the Foreign Service or the intelligence world is exactly what that sounds like. Um, and that is what happened. So, in our USA New Zealand game, I will give obviously you've got the better insight probably than I do at this point. But I will start off by saying, in terms of as definitely the preeminent USA fan on this pod and probably in the Gainline or Global Gainline family, honestly, I was kind of happy with this performance. Um, I didn't. I didn't have a lot of problems with it. We had a really great first half. I felt pretty good about it. That said, as I said, if you are a listener of both pods, at the end of the day, it's New Zealand. We were seeing a new look, Whitney Hansen led team. With, as we discussed last week, there were a lot of new faces for both sides, respectively. Um, you know, yeah, new people shake things up, but at the end of the day, it's still the Black fucking Ferns.
Yeah,
Um,
it, the weird thing about that game
They
is that
still had Rue demand. Like
it,
you've got the pieces that run it
it it was one of those games where I was like, this is going exactly how I thought it. Like it was going
exactly how I
exactly how
thought
I
it
thought
would.
it would, even with it being the
I wish I
best
had
case
something
scenario for the USA.
exactly. I wish, and I'm really glad you said that because the whole reason that I've been like really slowly talking is because really where I landed on this is exactly what I expected. It's on the good end of what I expected. It could have gone worse.
Mm.
Um, I think there were a few really bright spots, which make me confident. I definitely am doubling down on what we said last week. I'm going to say, certainly, I think the best chance that we have to win is going to be against Australia. We're going to talk
Mm.
about why in a minute. But um, yeah, I'm happy with the new look team. It was, that fly half is pretty funny. But that said,
She's very
she's making
good.
some moves. Yeah, I was gonna say that said, she's making some moves that for a long time we couldn't get our tens to do. And we'll never know if it was for lack of trying or lack of ability. But she is taking those risks, which is great. Um, for a country that you would not expect to have a particularly good pathway, it gives me hope that there is a good pathway, considering what we have to talk about at the end very briefly. I assume that's when we're going to talk about it. Otherwise, we'll just throw it in the middle. Um,
Oh, I was just going to say, I actually looked up because she fascinated me. She's been playing since she was 10.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and she is one of the new faces that is going to be from this generation, and we were talking about it a little bit off the air. There are now. It's no longer rare. It's no longer Test Fury rare that people are starting to play in America at 8, 9, 10.
yeah,
And a 19-year-old, yep, that's
yep.
right there. That's going to be that generation coming in.
So,
And honestly, yeah, if that's what they look like playing, cool.
yeah, I mean, I did think it was bold to give somebody a first cap at 10.
It
She has
it
very
really
little high level experience. She's basically just played
she's from sevens.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, college and sevens.
yeah.
Absolutely. And here's what I will say there. I do think, I would love to say that I thought that it was a bold move from Jack Hanratty. I don't. I think KB is probably a little sore. She's not formally injured, but I do not see a world in which she didn't start unless she didn't want to start.
I
I just
also,
don't.
unfortunately for KB, and I think this might follow her for her most of her career, is that yes, she's a 10, but she's a 10 who can play 12 and
I was gonna
15
say, I was gonna say she's
very
well,
well.
very well, and obviously, like I want her to play where she's happiest, and generally, utility backs are happiest if they can be the big honcho. All of that said, in my opinion, where I like watching her play the most is 12.
Yeah. And I think what could follow her for most of her career is that she could end up, especially if you have like a 6-2 bench, she ends up being
Yeah,
that 23 jersey, which you can
exactly.
get a lot of caps from there, but
Well, and also it's what you're absolutely right because it's what they're doing this upcoming weekend. Um,
she's
I
too
don't.
versatile for her own good.
Exactly, too versatile for her own good, and we are in a place of flux right now where it is so not set, and this is a little bit dangerous too, but it is so not set. There really isn't anybody in the back line, and I'm going to talk about why, or I'm going to talk about another instance in a sec, but we have so few backline players who really even only play one or two. And I'm not saying that in a way that it's good. It's not bad, but it's not good. We could stand to use specialists. And I say that because we thought it was weird for Alev to be at 15 last weekend. I felt watching her performance, it was not where she should be. And it's where she's going to be again next week. So I that is one of the things that led me to believe that perhaps something is going on with Kristen Bitter. Um, I, I, so here's the thing is that it's very hard to put any player above Alev Kelter. But when you are talking about 15s, number 15, I think it's okay to say, for me, it
That's
would
not
be
fair.
Bitter over her. It would
But
be Bitter for
can
me.
can I throw a spanner
Yeah,
in that?
please, please.
I think you could almost keep the people that you had at the weekend, or like the starting backs where they, as starting backs, it was just they were in the wrong place. Like it made no sense to
Yes.
me to have Boo on
Oh,
the week
that's that
on the
that was
wing when
that was why I was
she's
being very specific with it, is that at 15, I felt that that was a waste.
yeah, like Boo's playing 15 for Loughborough with
Hmm.
11 at 13.
Hmm.
Emily Henrich can obviously play 13, she can play on the wing.
Hmm.
11 to me should be playing 12 or
In the
13.
center.
Obviously
In the center.
you've got Katana Howard, she's a 12, so you just play 11 at
Sure.
13. Like
Yeah, I'm
it,
happy with that.
it,
That's
it was
fine.
just those three people, you just swap them, and that's a
Hmm.
far better backline that's a lot more
It is.
balanced. And as
It is.
well, I feel the need to point out, like as a Loughborough fan, Alev's been carrying a leg injury
That
for
was
the
where I was going
last
to go
couple
with
of
it.
months. Why are you putting her at 15 where she has to do a lot of running?
That was where I was going to go with it, actually, was that like it's interesting and pertinent that you brought up the Loughborough. Usually, like I'm not always going to default to what people are doing in club. I think that that can be analytically lazy, but not in this situation because we are in a unique position where, in terms of this back line, several of them play together in the same place, and remarkably, like doing things similar. Obviously, we're not going to play exactly like Loughborough. Critically, though, we do have the Loughborough coach in our coaching staff.
I thought he
So
was in Canada, or is he in the USA?
he came here, and that was the whole thing, was that you were like, oh my God, calm down.
I thought he was in Canada.
See? No, I gotta look. I feel silly. I could have sworn it was here because I was like, well, that makes sense. Like, surely one of the Eagles was like, oh, why not? His last name is just Smith, isn't it?
Mm.
Not Nathan Smith, cause of death. Talking to Hattie too. Oh, this isn't going well at all. This is a league player. Uh, oh, you're right. It's Canada.
Yeah, I did. I
Okay.
remember because I remember thinking, why
Okay.
didn't he go to the US? That makes more sense.
Yeah, actually, and I probably would have responded that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really a shame. He would do well here.
Mm.
Okay.
Half
Well,
his players are there.
that's what I meant, is that like it would be good. And Alex Osterbury's at Canada. Like, what are you? Okay, sure. Sure. Okay. Um, well, terrible transition for me for this. Yeah, that's all my takes on it. In terms of what we're going to, we do have previews. We'll do previews later then.
I have one
Yeah,
thing to
please.
say.
Obviously, we want to talk about it.
Breaking news before we started recording, which means by the time this pod is out, it's not breaking news and whatever.
Correct.
Is
It's
that
just news.
yeah, Tanya
Kaluna Vale
Vale, thank yous. Red card, which let's be frank,
was
was
deserved.
a very clear red
Okay,
card.
I was like, oh, I really thought you were going somewhere else. I was like, which was deserved? Where are you going?
She put her shoulder directly into somebody's head.
Directly into her face.
Um,
And she knew it because
because she was sat on the sideline. So like it went to the bunker. She was sat on the sidelines and the camera panned her as they were upgrading it from yellow to red. And she went,
with the timing of God.
yeah, they had had the camera on her, and she just went, "Ah, fuck."
Ah, fuck
Fuck.
mate.
That was more
Fuck.
Australian, but yeah.
I know. I know I
But
killed it.
World Rugby in their absolute genius. I personally think that World Rugby are incredibly intelligent people
Oh
and
my
never make
God.
poor decisions.
She's doing so much rugby values right now.
Just hashtag rugby values
Rugby
is
values
putting your shoulder into somebody's face
directly into
as
their head.
yeah, as they're in a ruck.
Yep.
Um,
It's
that
very rugby
is
values.
hashtag rugby values,
It is.
dancing Bill Beaumont. It is decided that it was not deemed to carry a high degree of danger. So there,
Which of all cop outs for that one, I was like, you didn't even try.
and
I do
also they
understand.
did point out that not only was it a high degree of danger, but the other reason why she got a red card was that it was always illegal. So
That's
had they
my
deemed it,
so I'm glad you're mad about the same things because I do, jokes aside or whatever, I really do try to be cognizant of when I am criticizing a decision because I didn't like it versus when I think like it really wasn't just. This one, like again, we lost this game. That's not a question. But in terms of this exact incident, cross red. What are you talking about?
I was like,
I I love go to volley too. Like I really enjoy watching her. This is nothing on like that I wanted my team to win, but like, oh.
you know, when you, because the one thing about Pack 4 is that the uh, everything around it is really quiet. Like there isn't a
Yeah.
specific Pack 4 thing. We call it Pack 4. Everybody else in the world calls it Pack 4, apart from World Rugby, who insist on calling it Pacific Four Nations
Yeah.
Cup. So when you
Which is very
search,
funny.
which when you search for things, you then have to type in that whole thing. People just call it Pack 4. Just call it Pack
Yep,
4. It's fine. Um,
correct. Half the people think it's an acronym. It doesn't matter. Call Pack 4.
just call it Pack 4. But then I went on Blue Sky because people don't talk about Pack 4 on Twitter. So I had to go
Mm.
onto Blue Sky and I read it that it'd been downgraded. And I was like, what? And then I had to reread it. And then I had to go onto Rugby Pass to find the article. And I was like, what?
Is there a whole art? I think I kind of like it happened at a time during the day, right? Because obviously what's it called? What do you guys say when you're slacking off at work? You guys have a specific like whatever, little cute word for it. And it's not slagging. Whatever. It's fine. I'm doing that off of my job.
Mm.
So I didn't see this until you told me basically. Um I didn't even know there was an article. I should probably have read that. That's very funny to
It
me that
wasn't
there's an
very
article.
interesting.
No. Okay.
But I was just like, what is the world coming to? Head
So,
injuries. That's where we're at.
yeah. So this isn't helpful because it is just something that I'm, informedly, but still pulling out of my ass. Um, a lot of the weird decisions like this, I've kind of just been chalking up to like in my opinion, a misguided at this time in rugby development move that they're making that apparently, and I'm basing this off of like the changes at MLR, the changes that they are allowing South Africa to impose on everybody that they do at schoolboy
It's not
level.
it's not South Africa, I will say. It's Australia and New Zealand.
Often, except for that when you take stuff from schoolboy in South Africa. But yes,
Yeah,
it is
but their
mostly
head
Australia, New
injury
Zealand.
stuff is yeah.
Yes, so absolutely. That is
And the
not South
20-minute
Africa.
red card in.
Exactly. That is
I didn't want
absolutely the
angry
fault of
South
Australia.
Africans.
No. And that's why I am now. Yep, you're absolutely right. I was talking about a different thing. You're absolutely right for head injuries. No, where I was going with that was just there seems to be a global push. And this also feels like maybe it's a rugby values thing. But and I really hope that it isn't an attempt at Americanization because this sport doesn't need it. But we're trying to make the game much faster, despite that it's already a pretty fast game. The in-ball time or the in-game ball time is much higher than in a lot of other sports. Um, there is, in my opinion, and definitely Hattie's going to agree with me because of who we both are, there is a very misguided judgment against scrums right now that we don't need them. And I do feel like it's trickling down to the set piece. Um, it it feels like they're trying to get rid of set pieces next. Um, and I feel like I'm not doing a good job of connecting these two thoughts, but I
It's
think I'm right. I think that the taking back all of like we'll stop doing so many cards. We're gonna make a new card where you can come back. It all feels like ways to just be like, yeah, but like everybody hates that we're so careful. Please don't. We don't hate that you're careful.
uh, the thing that screams to me is like when you look at how rugby league and rugby union diverged, is that we're basically doing what rugby league already did, which is they took away rucking, which
We're
we
leaguifying it.
yeah, which we're now changing certain things you can do in rucks. They got rid of like lineouts in scrums pretty much. Like
That was where I was going with it. Yeah.
yeah. And it's just like we
And
don't
so
need to
here's
do that. Like the
and
reason
I
why people watch rugby is for those things, not
it's for those things and what I feel like shouldn't be difficult and I don't understand and I think this is what frustrates me the most, but we have league. If you want league, we have league. It's just not through rugby union.
and
Like
also
if you want to
can
watch
I
league,
just say rugby league isn't exactly like taking over the world. It's not
no,
like it's not like we're chasing after football.
so right. And unfortunately this like takes us way off the path, especially for these four nations, although two of the four of them really are victims of league. So if you would talk about it, it would be now. But no, I do want to talk about it briefly, only because it seems like it's changing like right now. And we only pod once a week. We don't get to comment on every little thing that comes out. But you and I were talking about it before we started recording again. There is very much a narrative that is fabricated. It's a completely fabricated narrative that League is more exciting, which um it's more exciting. It would be more accessible to Americans. By the way, if that were true, wouldn't League have come to America and not Union? Um, there seems to
And they've
be at
tried.
least
It didn't
and they
work.
have tried. Well, so the reason that I bring this up is because it does so happen, and I'm getting this on my socials feeds, which is very weird because I've never interacted with league stuff. That there is a push to start this narrative in America because again, it's not organic; it doesn't exist. America likes rugby union, but there is this new narrative that like, hey, if you like rugby union but you think it's boring, come watch league, and that doesn't work. So now they're like, well, why don't we go for the NFL fans? And that's very much the route that it's taking here in America, trying to get people into league. They're very much tying their wagon to football. Um, which
Because
and so the thing is, I
NFL
don't mind
fans famously like other sports.
like other sports that are played by mostly not white people.
Mm.
They love that. No, that's one of the things though, is that that blows my mind the most. And I have to assume that the people who are trying to push it are people from league places. So maybe they're Australian, maybe they're Kiwi. I don't know, but it's not played anywhere else. The draw that they think is there is that the salaries are much higher when you can get them. But what we're facing already in rugby union, and it's the thing that we talk about a lot in the women's game, is there already aren't that many places to play. There are even fewer places to play league. Yeah, you can get that salary, but it's
But
like tennis or golf, but you have to be the absolute best, and there are only a few best, and there are only a few teams, and you only play certain times.
there's a
Also,
reason
if you're
why
not
they
Australian or Kiwi, they don't want you.
and also like with leagues like with uh women's league in like Australia, they're not getting paid all year. There's a reason
Right.
why they do like
And
the New
that's
Zealand
part of the
Seven girls
misinformation.
do like part of
Absolutely.
a year here. But yeah, anyway,
And
we're gonna
well,
move on, I
right,
think,
sorry. Well, and
before we
I
get too
feel
derailed.
I feel a little bit justified only because we were talking about New Zealand, and New Zealand is like USA, one of the places that is under threat by leaks. So, but anyway, all of
Mm.
that said, um, we enjoyed the game. We will be previewing what's coming, and that will kind of tie up this review. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was just gonna say the thing that I find really odd about this card being rescinded is that normally when you see cards being rescinded, it's because there's like a really big backlash to it. I literally
I was
didn't
gonna
see a
say
single person.
it's either backlash or they want to acknowledge that yes, this changed the path of the game, which are
Neither
the
of
only
which
two.
happened.
Right. I was gonna say, which are two actually pretty valid reasons for me, and it's why like I don't have a blanket like you should never rescind. But that's absolutely not. I don't understand why they revisited it, to be honest.
I understand, like obviously it had to go to
You have
like a
to for
meeting
you
and
have to for committee, right?
yeah,
For the
for what the
discipline
ban
committee.
would be. But like
Well, and they had to decide if she went to the disciplinary committee. I understand that.
yeah,
Um,
um, but rescind it. I want to know who the New Zealand lawyers are because if I ever
They
got
have
into
done, I was gonna say
trouble,
they've done it before.
yeah,
They've done it a
yeah,
lot in the men's. So clearly
let's.
they have somebody on the disciplinary beat that knows.
Mm,
Let's what?
yeah. So we move on to a country that has no sway, and a country that has all the sway. It's Canada versus Australia in a
You
very
decide which ones she means. Because I was like, you mean the number two team in the world? And I was like, I see.
yeah. But World Rugby doesn't really want them to be number two in the world, do
They
they?
hate it. They hate it. And they would hate it even more if they were number one.
Yeah. Anyway, Canada versus Australia, the wettest game of all time.
The
It was,
wettest game.
and it looked like
Well, we
warm
said,
rain.
okay, you're right. But we say that, but you and I have both very much been around for, yeah, for the game that was in Australia, where it was, remember at halftime when the England girls had to come and dump out their shoes and they had
That
Skaz wringing out her socks?
that was in New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand.
Yeah, it was the
They're different places. It was the
2021
World Cup.
22 World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Although it
Yeah.
was
Sorry,
against
I
Australia, I
thought
think.
it was Australia versus England. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was why. That was why I
Mm.
got messed up.
Um, but
Among the wettest games we've ever seen.
the fun thing about this game is that it started off with Taylor Perry trying to, like, as you see any fly half doing, bouncing the ball on the halfway line to try and get a vibe. And the
But
ball
not
kind
this
of,
time.
it just went and then
It
like
just,
dribbled away.
and it couldn't even roll away either. It just sat there dead.
It just kind of, it like flipped over and was just
Yeah.
like there. Like,
It was it reflected the way everybody felt.
yeah.
Um
This was
so
after, if people didn't watch the match, there was an hour and a half delay.
I was gonna say, so poor Australia, and they had some interviews with some of the players after all of this, fairly asking, do you feel like this had a lot of impact on how it went? How much, and from an analyst point of view, how much of this was Canada's strength versus the shitty conditions? And I think that both ultimately, we should say, first of all, the result was 24-0 to Canada. I think certainly we would be remiss to say that obviously the weather probably had something to do with it. That said, go on.
I mean, the last time they faced each other was at the World Cup,
Right.
46-5. The time
Yes.
before that,
This is where I was going to go. Yeah.
45-7.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to say that, this could have been closer. I don't think it could have been closer. I think the rain sucked. Um, but I don't think this could have been closer. I will say after this match, especially having the discussion that we had in the last episode, I think we're right. I think we're dead on. I think there's a lot of disarray on the Australia side, which sucks. I really and I feel like I worry that I'm being too simplistic, but I really do think losing Joe Yap was a blow. Um, when you have something really good and then you lose it, you really notice.
Mhm.
Um, that said, do you have any thoughts on these several new faces and arrangements that we saw on both sides? I don't, honestly, and it's because I didn't see any standouts.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's one of those games that you really cannot judge anybody on.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Canada capped an
I
entire new
didn't.
front row, and
I was gonna
apart
say
from
I didn't want to sound like I was copping out and didn't watch it or something. I absolutely did, but there's so much going on that it's very hard to make like a qualitative analysis.
like Canada was capped an entire new front row, as I said.
Hmm.
The only one that like stood out to me was their new hooker,
Hmm.
and I think that must have worked because she is actually playing again this weekend.
Yeah.
Kiki Adowu.
Hmm.
Um, so that's exciting. That's cool that they've kept somebody and that's all working. That's
It
great.
it absolutely is, and well, like just to touch on the hooker for Canada specifically, I'm glad for this specifically because I have been wondering, and this isn't something that I've seen around a lot. This is just me and my brain, but like Emily Tutosi has to be getting tired. Like, yeah, I'm surprised Jillian Bogue isn't in the squad at all, so I assume she's injured. That has to be
Yeah.
the only explanation.
Or
Um,
retired, or I don't know.
yeah, yeah, maybe. It would be. It would really suck. I mean, she wasn't highly capped, but it would really suck if she had petered out with nothing because like there was no announcement or anything. There was no thank you, Jillian.
No.
Um, maybe I don't know, but
It
buddy,
was.
they had a full new front row and they still nailed you.
Yeah. Do you want an absolutely mad stat?
I do.
Yeah. So can you guess who was the second, who had the second most carries in the entire game?
Pam Buisa.
No.
Oh, you said it's gonna surprise me.
It's just mad.
Yeah, I know. So I'm trying to think of somebody who'd be weird to carry a lot.
It's not weird that they carried. It's just weird that they're the second highest given the circumstances.
Go for it. Who's it?
It's Sophie de Goody, who came off the bench.
Oh, okay. I was like, yeah, a thing that shocks everybody. No, okay, it's off the bench.
So she came
That's
off.
that's
she
completely fucking insane. What minute did she come on?
she
I think it was
came
like 52 or 53, but
50 minutes,
there we go.
but she made 14 carries. Dalika Menin was top with 18.
Okay. I yeah, I was about to.
Emily Totosi third
Wasn't
with
Dalika also
13.
off the bench?
No, she
They
started.
capped they nope. They started a whole new team, a whole new
No,
front
no,
row.
no, they didn't. It was their bench that was a whole new front row.
Oh, that is not what we said earlier. Okay, great.
They capped an entire new front row was what I
Oh,
meant
capped
earlier.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Um, no, Menin started.
Yeah.
Do you know what? With that kind of weather, I know it did dry out towards the end, but because it
Yeah.
was synthetic pitch, the water didn't go anywhere. It just wasn't coming from the sky anymore.
Yep.
Um, I- yeah, it was as good as it was going to be. Let's be frank.
Yeah, I don't want to like, especially after how much we talked about the Six Nations, like I don't want to sound like I'm not giving it any, this is my team. I care. However, that was just a shit match, dude. It sucked.
It was, and the thing was, they kept kind of saying. So I wake up the next day and could see like all of the threads in one
Where
go.
everyone was just like, this is miserable.
Yeah, and people are like, they can't cancel the match because they're flying out to Kansas City tomorrow. Like, it's got to be
But
played.
it's true. And by the way, um on the last half of this, I was mentioning that the weather is already looking terrible for Kansas City. They can't push that one either.
No,
Also, please don't because I paid a lot for flights.
yeah. So, yeah, I would not necessarily recommend watching it back unless you want to see Hogan Rochester face plant into a puddle.
Into a puddle, which kind of fun. But you can also just watch that clipped up. If you only have so Hattie and I also inhabit a unique position for most rugby fans where we both have a lot of free time.
We're
So you probably don't. You probably have a family and a real job.
You
I
probably leave the house to make money.
I was gonna say, so that's another thing Hattie and I don't deign to do. In fact, yeah, going to Kansas City is going to be like a real outing for me. Which too, and what I love about having so many international listeners is that like they probably hear that and they're like, "That's awesome! You're gonna be going to this internet." If you're American and I'm telling you that I'm going from DC to Kansas City, that people will be like, "For work? Do you have a meeting?"
So as Julia knows, I've recently been watching a lot of Criminal Minds, and as I said to her
Oh,
the other
please,
day,
I need to know about who to worry about. So Criminal Minds definitely was like early 2000s, wasn't it?
it's still on. They brought it
They're
back.
making new ones.
Yeah, I haven't got that far yet,
Oh,
um,
oh,
but
okay.
I'm up. I'm on season 10, which is like circa 2015.
I was gonna say, and I
Um,
want everybody to know how worried she is for me because we have the FBI headquarters in Virginia.
yeah, so this is it. There are certain places now. I'm like, well, I can't
To
go
be
there
fair,
because all the serial killers are there.
to be fair, it's only 40 minutes away. Quantico is a very easy drive from where I live. However, never been serial killed. Not
No.
even once.
So it apparently, according to Criminal Minds, all of the serial killers are in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
Kansas,
Mm-hmm.
Texas, and then the really bad ones alternate every other year between LA and New York.
Oh, okay. I want you to know that that is all incorrect.
Yeah.
I thought yeah, I mean, it's mostly like fucking Ohio. Like just some Indiana. Just places where, no, places where there are miles and miles and miles of nothing and nobody can hear you scream.
Yeah. Um, So that's where they put the serial killers. Also, I will
And
say,
they're actually, and you said LA, so obviously other side of the state, on a very large, long state. But still, we could say that the Pacific Four teams are on a tour of like all the places to get killed.
yeah. Well, well, Chicago, different types of crimes according to Criminal Minds.
We're not gonna,
We're not
we're
going to go
not
there.
gonna, no.
Oh, it's not what you're thinking.
Oh,
Um,
well, no, Criminal Minds wouldn't start saying things are gang violence.
no,
No.
no, no. If you've watched Criminal Minds, you know where I'm going with this, and I'm not
Yes,
going to
yes.
push it any further.
We
Um,
probably shouldn't.
but the thing is,
It would be very strange to me if they focused on Chicago and not like rural Illinois, which is absolutely where they are.
no, it's because one of the main characters is from Chicago.
Oh, okay. See, now I didn't even know this show had main characters. I thought that it was episodic, that like each one. Is this fiction or is this real? I've never
Fiction,
seen Criminal Minds.
fiction. So it's
Oh, so this
about,
is just bullshit.
yeah, 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 this is made
Sometimes.
up.
Oh, okay. So sometimes. First of all, so sometimes the whole reason that they're even still in Virginia is because they were like, ugh, we don't want to build another set.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. They're just like, but I think the show's actually
Been
filmed in LA,
maligned.
which is what makes
Of
it make
course.
no sense. So like clearly they just don't want to build the inside of another police station.
Right.
And they're like, we've already got all of these cars, so we're just gonna have you drive out to Fairfax, but it's not actually Fairfax because the entire show is shot in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a person who lives in Fairfax, literally, I can promise you it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's last weekend. This weekend, as I had said in last one, I'm excited. I'm going to be in Kansas City. I am worried that it might not go on. Right now, my favorite weather people are saying that it's going to be severe thunderstorms. Um, I'm
And
not afraid. What I am afraid of is losing money.
yeah,
Of
isn't
going.
this game later on in the evening? Is that better or is that worse?
It looks like worse. It
Mm.
says that it's going to be scattered, and then it says storms roll in the evening. And then I was really hoping, unfortunately, it won't. It'll be either one or the other because the first game starts at 5:15 local time, and then the second one is at 8. So I don't know. I was planning my whole like you can't just start drinking really heavily at Canada and New Zealand because you gotta be cool for USA, Australia. But like, if the whole thing's gonna get rained out, just tell me now.
But don't you have unlimited booze?
I do have unlimited booze, but I'm on a new medication where I can't drink that much. Not because I like don't want to or my body can't take it, but just because like I get really sleepy.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Which has never been like me. I fucking hate this medication because I've never been the first to pass out. I've never like, I'm not sloppy. No.
So if you're going to be in Kansas City this weekend and you would like to
Come
see
find me.
sloppy rugby Julia,
Sloppy rugby, Julia. Yeah, no, I really love that I just made like I can't get sloppy. I want to. I'm very sad that I haven't been able to like have a really good time in a
mm,
while. Um, I'm blaming it on age because I don't want to accept that my body is failing.
mm. So
I think that I am still a college-aged rugby player, and I think I act like it.
unfortunately, neither of us are.
I
Um,
know, and also I can't even podcast past like 8 or 9 because I get too sleepy. So. Other than that, this is the first Gen Z rugby podcast.
we've got meetings of equals though at this weekend, this
We
Friday.
do.
Canada
We
versus New
do.
Zealand,
I think these are the best matchups.
and USA versus Australia. Canada versus New Zealand. Oh, well,
It's
they're
gonna be a
both
banger.
revenge matches.
They're both revenge matches. And it's revenge for both teams, and both teams are mad about something else,
Yeah.
which is the
So
best way to be.
yeah, so Canada versus New Zealand. I feel like this is going to be the closer of the two this weekend, but I do think Canada will edge it. Especially they
I
put their
do.
team out and it's strong.
It's stacked.
Mm.
I do think it's going to be Canada. That was what we predicted. Now that we've seen the sides, absolutely. I think so too. I really do think it's going to be quite competitive. I really hope this rain holds off because I really want to see a real match between these
Mm.
two. CPKC, you know, for folks who aren't familiar, and I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again because it is very cool that we have it. CPKC, the stadium that we're going to be at, is the first purpose-built women's sports stadium in America. As far as I know, no men have played sports at this stadium, which is awesome.
No
Um,
men allowed.
no
Nobody
men's.
watches men's sports.
Nobody watches men's sports. We're making shirts, and we won't get sued.
Mm.
Um, That said, we also sold out this stadium last year for WXV. I really think there's a high potential for this crowd to be amazing. Um, like I'm never bummed about weather. Like usually it doesn't matter. It's just the severe that makes me worried because if it's lightning, then you have to get off the pitch. I don't care otherwise, but you know, we don't want anybody getting zapped these days. Game's gone woke.
Woke. Speaking of woke, USA versus Australia.
The wokest of them all. Not really.
Yeah.
USA is pretty woke.
Yeah. Well, the team is USA Rugby.
Less so.
Yes, so. Um, USA versus Australia. I think the USA will just edge it.
I think so too. This is the first time in a long time that these two have met that I feel confident, and especially like if you are a USA fan, you have PTSD from the World Cup. Um, and I do think really you know, not always, it's not always a revenge thing. I do think this weekend will be a weekend of revenge.
mm. I also think as well, something I was quite happy with this weekend was how strong Ricky Jay was as captain. And I think,
Absolutely.
and we've
Per
talked, we've talked about it
great
before
appointment.
on this pod that sometimes heavy is the head that wears the crown, and it affects people badly. She rose to the occasion. She was great
Yeah.
as captain. She really lifted the team as captain. So yeah.
I think she is the kind of player that is definitely going to be lifted. Um, Also something that both you and I separately have called long
Mm,
before. No, it's a really good fit. Like I said when we first reviewed the announcement, it is just my gut. I don't know for sure, but it really feels like this is probably a captain that was voted upon.
mm, yeah.
I think this is a captain the team is happy to be behind. Not that KZ wasn't. One thing that I feel that USA women do well is leadership picking.
Mm,
Um, you know, for better or for worse, the rugby culture in America really does revolve a lot around team dynamics, and you know, we want to get to the place where it's all about skill, absolutely. But until then, there are worse ways you can build.
mm.
We've seen throughout the past few years in women's rugby the various ways that you can build up a rugby team, or women's rugby team. And there are good ways and there are bad ways. For example, you can't bully them into being good. You can't threaten them into being good. And
You
you can't
can't
take and
defund them.
you can't defund them into being good, and you can't take away their toys into being good.
Mhm,
It, punishing women's sports teams doesn't work. So I have appreciated that USA Rugby has done as much as they can to at least give us a fighting chance. And I think that we have a fighting chance. I do think that we're going to win this weekend.
mm,
Um, if there's anywhere that's going to give them a really big home advantage, it's Kansas City.
yeah.
I really can't stress to our international viewers enough. Like it is dead center in the country. It's also pretty easy to get to from most major cities. It was the
Mm.
right place to do. And I say that in reflection to when they held it in New York for the sevens, and that was the wrong.
Sucked. And it
It was
wasn't
just
even New York, it was New Jersey.
it wasn't New York, it was New Jersey. David went off. If anybody wants to on our last Wall Street Journal that we just dropped this morning, David and I didn't think David was going to have such a strong opinion, but we ended up staying in different hotels because I had to leave at a different time that he did. He got a shit ass hotel and it was far away. And it was freezing and we had to walk everywhere, which is all fine, but altogether it kind of sucks. That was a great segue. So those are our predictions.
I
Yes,
have one final thing.
please.
Uh, so my when I woke up on Sunday morning, I had many messages from Julia,
Yes.
and I also saw a Blue Sky fake tweet from Julia complaining about the commentary. Now, controversial, and I haven't told her this. I obviously watched the games earlier. I didn't
I'm
think
so
it was
excited.
that bad.
I'm so excited. That's insane to me. You didn't hate the tone of his voice.
Oh,
That's
no,
insane. It was so football, so American football. It
it
was
was
always like this. Everything was at this tone.
it was very American.
Oh, okay. That's
Um,
it's unpleasant to listen to. I'm not watching rugby to hear something like this. I like it when it's calm and it sounds like Nick Heath.
yeah,
She got the ball. She kicked it out of the bounds. Do you mean it's a touch?
yeah, he definitely got some terminology wrong. There was also some
Which
creative terminology, which I did think actually, no, I get why you've said that because it sounds more that would be a more of a recognizable term if you're American and you've not watched rugby before. However,
also I really need Americans who aren't Brie Kim or Wendy Young to stop calling rugby like we are all new to it. I understand that it worked in the Olympics. I also didn't like it there, but I totally understood it for the Olympics. If somebody's watching the fucking Pacific Four, they've seen rugby before. This is not
yeah.
their first rugby.
However,
Don't insult me.
this guy was not as bad as some of the WER guys.
That's true.
And I also will say,
One of them was frankly, literally not a rugby person. So
yeah, the other thing, he wasn't as bad as some of the people who do MLR. And one of the
he does MLR.
he does do MLR. One of the
Yeah.
worst things I've ever heard on MLR was when they called an interception try a pick five.
I would have been better off if you just didn't tell me that that happened. What I like about Wall Street Journal is that neither of them ever tell me this. Boys, if you're watching, it's amazing that you don't tell me this, and you should go on not telling me this. And now that I know that you on purpose didn't bring it up because
It
you knew
that
that I would be like this.
that was actually offensive to me personally.
I, the guy that you thought wasn't that bad did call it a touchdown at one point, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
thank you.
I think the thing is, if he'd been commentating on a European game on the BBC, I would have
Okay, this is where it's
actively.
fair. This is where it's fair.
However,
And
the standard of American broadcasting is quite bad when it comes to rugby. I unfortunately have to tell you that.
yeah, well, yeah.
He also called
But
somebody a bucket.
that had to be a misspeak or a misheard on your end. No, he didn't. There's no crossover. It couldn't have been.
He did.
There's no crossover. I think you and I are watching a lot of basketball right now, and I think maybe you're thinking about that. Um,
Or it might have been he called her a bucket, but he said, what did he say? He was
it
like,
was
"Oh,
something.
in the bucket or something."
Oh, okay, that sounds fine.
And
It-
it was weird.
she's a bucket wouldn't even make sense. Um, you're right, and I could stand to be. I could stand to like be a little bit nicer. Not really. It's okay that my standards are high.
For an
I don't.
international game, it should have been better.
Right. And if he were calling what PWR or what WER used to be here in America is the PWL. Oh yeah, that's exactly it. PWL Professional Women's League or WPL Women's Professional League. If you were calling a WPL match, sure.
Mm.
Even a WER, which I wouldn't love, but
Can I have my hot take now?
please.
So I would have
That
much
wasn't
pref
the hot take. Go on.
Oh no, it's going to get so much worse.
Oh, about to be mean to me.
No, not you. I'm about to be mean to USA Rugby
That's what I said.
and World Rugby. So I would have much. The thing I don't get right is that when they host Pac 4 specifically, they almost always have a man and a woman, right?
Yeah, so that
I
was
have
my
a
complaint with this one,
Yeah. Um, and specifically, they tend to get men who don't seem to really know anything about rugby. The USA
especially
has,
women's.
yeah, the USA,
Two,
the USA has two incredibly knowledgeable, very good female rugby commentators. However,
who, by the way, who, by the way, have called more international than any of our men, except maybe Will Hooley.
yeah,
But he's English. Sorry, go on.
um, now one of them was there. She was calling the game. The
She was
other one
helping.
is our good friend Wendy, friend of the pod.
Hell yeah, go off.
Um,
All it was that I couldn't do it. So go off.
and here's the thing. If anybody follows your Scrum Half connection, you will know that she has been going off at USA Rugby and World Rugby about trans rights in
You're making
rugby
me so happy. I
for
didn't
a
think you're.
very, very, very
I
long
want to just.
time. And
I want to
especially
disclaim.
recently, she's been extremely vocal.
I want to disclaim. Hattie only told me that she had a hot take, and she's so good at staying cryptic that I thought that it was going to be something that was going to upset me. I'm thrilled because I can't, because I promised her I wouldn't. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy. That's
I just
crazy that
think,
Brie Kim was there, but Wendy wasn't. I wonder
yeah,
what it could have been.
basically, I personally think that she's being dropped because she's been vocal. In the same way that Nick Heath,
Yes,
also very vocal, he was
was
dropped from the
dropped from the World
World
Cup.
Cup. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you're 100% right and I stand by it. And to give especially American listeners a perspective, this is something that until Hattie said it, I genuinely didn't consider because it was something that felt so anathema to
So,
to what we stand to what we stand for. The things that we've gone off so much about that I've been lucky enough to have my own podcast to go off on about, but like
I think
that's so gross.
the thing is, rugby and rugby politics are so petty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like
Great point.
I won't go too much into it, but I we did talk about this off air. Was obviously we've got WER, and it's come out that they have very quietly banned trans people. We're not. There's no
The
distinction
the
on.
only the only reason that we care at this point is only because we learned that contracts were signed.
Yeah,
That's the only reason that I got upset. I understand that it is their prerogative to do it. They are doing it to cover their ass. We're not ready to make a whole statement on it because nobody has all the pieces yet. So we're not making a full judgment. The only reason that I brought it up at all is because I didn't know that it had come to the point where people had moved. People
yeah.
moved from their states, they quit their jobs. People thought that things in their life were about to change to a degree that now if they weren't to come back and like I don't know, trans people in America already like don't have it good. It's
No.
not like they all have tons of money. It's not like they all are, keeping your job is super easy. It's not even easy to keep your job as a cis person, let alone so to offer these people a chance not only to do what they love and something that they're very skilled at. Obviously, none of these people are being brought in because they're trans, because they're very good at rugby. To get that taken away, while you're being told by our governing body that you are not welcome,
Hmm.
despite all of the effort that unions like Canada and America have done to push back. I don't want it to end up being the case that it was for nothing. We don't know. So
Yeah.
we're not ready to say that.
So the reason why I bring this up is that it reminds me a lot of, if you remember the lawsuit between the referee and USA Rugby, where he was dropped because
Great
he
point.
had basically refereed a college competition that wasn't in line with USA Rugby. And I
Absolutely.
think, again, we're guessing because we don't know the facts, we don't know. I'm assuming that something similar has been said to WER, that the coaches might not, might lose their qualifications,
And
that they won't
and
have
and
referees, etc.,
yes,
etc.
and
They
and
might
it's
not have
very
pitches.
and it's very worth and that's a really great point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Especially because the American rugby ecosystem, two of the head coaches in WER are national coaches as well.
Yeah.
So, Sarah Shabbat cannot lose her accreditation. Sylvia Broughton cannot lose her accreditation. You won't have a strength and conditioning or a pack coach. Like, no. Um,
And it
what do you want them to do? What do
sucks.
you want them to do?
Yeah, it's so complex and really difficult, and it's just very, very petty. Interestingly, and I have just remembered this before we started recording the first episode, I said, Julia, I'm going to tell you something that I did earlier on today, and I'll get your real reaction. And then I completely forgot what it was until right now. So I was looking up earlier old newspapers, as I do quite frequently. Two things. Number one, there was an article, it was from the 90s, and it was like a big page, and it said hot or not, and underneath was a photo of Hillary Clinton, and she'd had a new haircut. But the reason why I bring this up is that there was
Oh,
another
I was like,
newspaper.
that genuinely can't be it because,
No,
like, I don't care.
it did make me laugh though.
Oh, yes.
There was another newspaper article. It was really interesting. It was from 2021 and it was about the England trans ban.
Mhm.
And it was basically saying, like, this isn't in line with the guidance World Rugby have brought out. And because it wasn't. Like, when you
Nope.
look at it, like, that's 2021, it's now 2026. How quickly everything has changed and everybody has kind of turned their backs. And it's all the RFU.
I've banged this drum for a while, but unfortunately, when you sound like me and like it's unfortunately, this is just like you said, petty. This is just petty rugby politics. But like, no, nobody wants to hear from a gay little American. But like, it's always sorry, like it's always been RFU, and it's really rich to me. Whatever. This is going off in a completely different direction, but it's really rich to me what RFU decides they like from the queer community and what I don't know. And it's really rich that they get to draw the line. Um, the rest of us, for example, and I only say this in the face of it's interesting to me that WER as an organization can't push back. But if PWR were to,
If like even if Harlequins, who have such a have a really really
exactly.
storied history with Pride,
It, I was going to
everything
say,
else,
we have Harlequins in the PWR, and then in the WER we have literally all the teams,
yeah.
and yet,
If they pushed back, I think it would make a huge difference. If Leinster want to push about how they're really open, and to be fair to them,
yep,
they've had a lot of male gay players and bisexual players who've come out and felt comfortable enough to come out.
yeah.
They have interestingly left very shortly after, but that's by the by. If they want to talk about that, push back against
To
it.
be fair, there are some queer people who aren't good at sports. Like that happens
Oh, I
too.
mean, one of them went on to be capped by the USA.
Oh, you fucked up.
Yeah.
No, you fucked up.
And the other one is still playing professionally. Uh,
Oh, that's more interesting.
mm. Anyway, where am I going with this? Basically, pushback. It's a load of bollocks. However, maybe don't at social media admins.
Oh, I thought you were still talking to me about like yeah, I was still thinking about like I'm sorry that you all
Oh
saw
no,
me like
this
yelling
is
at somebody.
this is a
Yeah, no,
Casey.
you're right. You're
PG.
right. Don't yell at admins. It's true. I mean, I have
I
trouble
get
saying
it.
that though. I have trouble saying that though because only because in this specific situation, where else do they go?
Yeah, where it's really hard because
You're absolutely right. I like the message that yours like we
I think
we
you can be
and
civil.
exactly and
You can
I
send your message being
understand
civil. Don't yell at
exactly
admins.
exactly and I understand especially that like it this is a jokey thing. This is something that is not related to what we're talking about here, but I know that like of all people, literally I am the one who coined the bullying works. Yes, that's not this situation. Come on. Um that said, unfortunately, like also yes, we should be bullying them. Like I'm in a hard place. I wish that they gave us more outlets
Mm,
than social media. What else are they to do? We don't have like 1-800 USA Rugby. We can't
mm.
call that. If you were to call USA Rugby, even not to complain, you probably can't get somebody on the phone. It's a tiny organization. Um, where I agree with you, and then also I ask you earnestly, not like accusatorily, but earnestly, like, do you have any? And I'm asking everybody, like, do you have any ideas? Because we are in the stage where like we're taking any ideas.
I think that's it. I think it's we can do so much. I'm not sure what the idea is. Obviously, I
Right,
am not.
right.
I'm not American. It's a different culture. However, I do think that if the first and only port of call is to just at people
I
and
know.
like they're
It's
just gonna
feckless too.
mute
Like you,
it.
I was just gonna say it
And
doesn't
here's the
even mean
thing:
anything anyway.
we've commented on World Rugby posts and being like, "That's wrong," but we're not sat there going, "You're fucking idiots." Which unfortunately, some
When
of the
and
stuff
especially, I was gonna say, especially when it is as emotionally charged as this, and I think that this is unfortunately just going to be a facet of this topic. Which, and the thing is, the one thing that really defeats our podcast specifically is that we are both very thinky, and that we constantly interrogate our own thought processes. And unfortunately, in one particular situation, which is pushing for or instigating fast and severe social change, you can't do both. You can't always sit around thinking and debating and asking if you're doing the right thing. Sometimes decisive action is needed. And I say this in the face of a bunch of other things that America is doing, that we are at a crossroads right now of deciding, do we do something or do we keep having marches that don't do anything? Um, do we keep just doing these campaigns of like an account like
Enacting
Rugby for All?
people.
Yeah, an account like Rugby for All, which by the way, like I'm not coming after that because again, that is the best thing you can do. And you've centralized a lot of good people who,
Resources.
yeah, exactly. And I would never want to dissuade anybody from doing that. It's just where you get nuancy. And that's where we're at right now, where you and I
Mm,
are like privileged enough to be able to talk about it. But again, emphatically, we are two cis women who are no longer playing. We care very much about the game and we're very involved, but neither of us would ever have been at risk.
no,
Um, and so when we sit here and we have,
pontificate.
we think we have the best interests at heart. We're not trying to instigate. We're not trying to shit on USA Rugby for the fun of it. In fact, we're coming to it
We're
being like chill, but
and we're not defending it either. We're not
right,
both
exactly.
sizing it, but I think both of us like we had a conversation off air about this where Julia kind of came to me and was like, "Bleh," and I was like, and then we both kind of went, and what we've kind of come out with is this is bullshit. We kind of understand potentially why WER have done this.
Yeah.
We understand why USA
We
Rugby have
under
done this.
we understand but disagree with why you have done
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
And I also think that there is a very, very high chance that many of the people involved in making those decisions
Don't want to make
don't
this
want to do
decision.
it either.
And
Um,
I'm really glad you said that because that was kind of where I wanted to end on this. I've mentioned it before, but at this time, I have, and I want to be very clear about it, I have cautious faith, very cautious, and it's just based on only actions I've seen so far. I am cautiously faithful in the new USA Rugby CEO, Bill Gorin, only because he didn't have to take a single question. He didn't have to respond at all. Many USA Rugby CEOs before have simply not. And
Many rugby
especially
CEOs continue to not answer questions.
continue to not. In the case of USA Rugby, it would have been egregious earlier than some other unions if they were to ignore it now. Um, I have appreciated that, and it's something that has always brought me into the USA Rugby world was that it is a place that, compared to some of the other and definitely much, much older organizations, one of the few things about being a bit younger in rugby years is that we do get to kind of like be rebellious teens.
Mm.
And I've appreciated that we've gotten to do that before. Now, um, the evil has come home. Now it's here. We're not. It's a lot easier to buck against World Rugby because it feels like this big faceless monolith.
Mm. But the problem
It's
is that you're not necessarily bucking against World Rugby. You're trying to buck against your own government where there's actual consequences, potentially.
and yeah, and that was exactly the contrast I was trying to draw is that like of course my first instinct is go off. As both a rugby player, as a queer American, as a woman, absolutely is go off. If no time, why not now? And I also understand one of my best friends being like, you have to chill. Um, and I think there are a lot of, well, but you understand you're like me, you're just from a different place, but you understand why I'm upset. And you
Mm.
understand why, especially active players, are probably way more upset than I am. And especially trans players who uprooted their lives. Um, it's just really hard to tell those people to chill. It's a lot easier to tell somebody like me to chill.
Yeah. I think
I really,
that
yeah.
our takeaway, if we're going to end, is I understand the angry posting.
Yeah.
I get it. Maybe just formulate your thoughts
I was gonna say
and
it
and
really
you
is.
can be constructive without being abusive to the
Yeah,
intern slash minimum wage part-time person
absolutely.
monitoring an Instagram account.
Exactly. That's exactly where we want to be with it. And especially for me, just because it's important to me if I'm lucky enough to be speaking to other members of the USA women's rugby community, um, that like by far the majority of us are with you. Like that's why it is important and it's something that I love that Wendy does, but like just the with you on every post. Like I understand that people might not get it if you're seeing it, but USA or rugby, playing rugby in America has always felt lonely because we know that we're not wanted. We don't need to go into this, but like, yes, it has always been a place where we've kind of understood that everybody takes us as a joke or just wishes we would go away. You wrote a great article about it. Um, but in fact, your article has been making me think a lot about it and has made me honestly more proud of being part of this community than less, despite what we're doing right now. I think everybody deserves better, and if we can be the catalyst for that, that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, we also have to behave well.
Yeah.
Please don't be a dick. Everybody's having a really hard time. I really appreciate accounts like Rugby for All because if you want to yell your vitriol, go do it there because they want to hear it, and other people will see it. Go do it there. Adding your local WER team is probably not going to do it, and it'll just make somebody's day bad because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the important thing to take away is that most people that you're going to encounter in the rugby sphere here agree with you. We're here for you.
And with that,
And with that, thank you so much for joining us. We really wanted to get that out of the way just because it's something that we care about a lot, but we're going to be going back to the rugby. We're not going to be going off like this. We're really excited to cover this upcoming weekend. I'm really hoping that the weather does hold out and I can get us some cool footage. If not, I'm just going to send some crappy footage directly to Hattie, who has to look at it because she's my friend. She will look at my crappy footage. She will tell me if I should post it. Um, that said,
Julia's going to get on TikTok.
I am gonna get on TikTok. I'm gonna do my first TikTok, and it's gonna be like very boomer. It's gonna be like out of focus, and then like for a little bit, you're gonna, how the fuck does this? It's gonna be great, and that's how you'll know it's really me. If it like
Mm.
looks really well produced, you'll know it's fake.
And it'll have a song on it, but she's still got the audio turned on, so you'll just hear random bits of noise throughout the song.
I don't even know how to do that. The one time that I have tried to do it, I couldn't get the music to go on the track. It was the music that I was listening to off my phone, and then I was like, just play what's on my phone, and there I can't find it. Um, so so everybody is thrilled for me to go. And of course, to actually end on a positive note, if you are going to Kansas City and you'll be around, you will see me. I am not a costume person, and also it's 15, so luckily I don't have to be. But wow, actually. So usually I say to my friends, I'm like, you'll know, like there aren't a lot of little lesbians walking around. I don't know if I could say that for this one.
I think there'll be quite a few small
I
lesbians with a
think
backwards
I
hat
think there's
wearing a
I think
USA
there's gonna be a
jersey.
lot of women who look just like me there. No, it's I was telling this to my wife too. I was like, going to a rugby thing in America is like one of the few times where most people do look like me and not don't look like me.
Do you not
Um,
feel so alone?
I don't feel so alone.
You're
I
with your
feel
people.
I feel in those moments like it is okay to be a short masked lesbian. Um, in these moments, I feel there is no mask shortage.
Can I ask you a question?
I will get their numbers. Oh my God, you said you would never
No,
date an
no.
American. I know, but let me get the bit off.
Is Do you see more people who look like you at a rugby match or at Pride?
Rugby match.
Mm.
I'm very fortunate to be from the DC area, and we have one of the biggest prides in America. It's huge.
It was on Real
Um,
Housewives of Potomac.
That's fantastic. I've been to several around. I'm very lucky. I've been to several around the country. Several have really great prides, and they're all really unique. But I've been going to this one since I was 13. Um, no, there is there's a femme renaissance. Everyone is so glad I said that on the podcast, folks. If you would like to be part of the mask shortage slash Femissance Kansas City, or come check us out next week. We will be back to review the second week of both Women's Six Nations and Pacific Four. We are hoping that we have no injury updates and all killer, no filler, no filler. There we go. All killer, no filler.
My favorite
Uh,
podcast, apart from this one, obviously.
I was thinking of the Sum 41 album. I am Gen Z. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week. As always, please leave any questions or comments that you have in the comments here on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Spotify, I don't think you can leave comments,
You
but I
can.
also. Oh, there we go. Okay, leave them on Spotify. But always best if you catch us on Twitter. We are at Rugby Treehouse. I assume we are also on Blue Sky under the same
We
name.
are.
Great. I log on once every 6 months to yell at a man. Um, Please catch us anywhere there. And as always, of course, if you have any history type stuff, if you want to check out Hattie's stuff, please check out the Rugby History Project under the socials. I think it's all at the Rugby History.
Yeah, sometimes it's the rugby history. It depends how many characters I had.
Yeah, I figured. I figured. I was really killing the outro and I murdered it. Thank you so much. Anything else?
Bye.
Bye.